yeah, pretty much end of the night here, Ronnie. We saw some two good victories here for Hobart, and yeah, probably back to the drawing board a little bit for the Kings in both the men's and the women's.
Yeah, look, I really think that there's some positive signs there, JB. I think it just comes with more practice and a bit more experience for some of these girls. The Kings are going that youth path. I like what they're trying to do here. Okay, there is a little bit of pain in this process, but no doubt in the long run this will pay off for them big time. Hobart Phoenix, you've got to give credit to them. We credit Jude.
Yeah, we'll work out that later. We've got some noise on the outside.
So, you know, again, the experience of Macaulay, Thompson, Parker. I mean,
Sinnott with some senior experience.
Yeah. You know, again, just showing that, you know, this is why Hobart Phoenix are still tough to beat.
And not only some experience within the actual side, but some experience in the organisation. Hobart was one of the probably the broadest amount of experience across the board, men's, women's development in the entire state, let alone the south of the state. So a great result there for Hobart. Again, as you mentioned, the Kings, they're going to probably go back to the drawing board a little bit. I think that injury to Taya is going to be pivotal, just as I think that injury to Rebecca Hill last week is going to be pivotal for the Spartans. But nonetheless, they've showed some good drive and some good determination, and they've done pretty well. Scott Daly over there just having a bit of a chat with his girls. I think the positive to come out of it for the Kings tonight is we got most of their names right, Ronnie.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we'll work on that week by week, JB, and no doubt we'll get it right. But it's good that the players are interacting with us and letting us know, and I think that's good to see.
Just to remind you all, 75-57 here, the final score for Hobart. Player of the game, it depends. It's got to be between. It's probably going to be McKiley. She just started dominating there down low. As we quickly have a look on the opposite side of the floor.
What's the score there, JB?
Full time, 72-49 there. To the Spartans, so they improved to a 2-1 record. The Wolves go 0-2, and yeah, what do you think of the Spartans so far, Ronnie? Now that we've seen some decent results for their men's squad.
Yeah, no, I think Glenorchy are showing why they're the defending premiers, and you know, I really think that. Again, you've got your young guns there, Jack Stanwick, Liam Smith, Connor Smith, Jack Marston, Adrian Peach. It's a good young core of talent that Bull has to work with there, and then you've got the veteran and Boyd Heber. So I think Glenorchy will show that they're going to be tough to beat. But I'll be interested to see when we have Hobart taking on Glenorchy.
Oh, absolutely, and that'll be a big matchup. And honestly, I think our big matchup, our next women's matchup, is going to be Hobart versus the Wolves, the dynamic duo of Collins and Taylor Roberts.
Yes.
Is that correct? Yes.
Yes.
Taylor Roberts. They got the job done again tonight as well.
Yeah, they sure did, and I think, you know, some Wolves will be certainly wanting a little bit more competition, and I think Hobart Phoenix can provide that for them.
Absolutely, no doubt about it, especially down on the low block. Well, Ronnie, I think that wraps us up here from SBL for another round.
It sure does. So I think we're going to use this, yeah?
Yeah, we'll be back in the studio. We'll actually all be back in the studio this time.
Yeah, we will have a show. So we'll go back to us where it's the following week. Back to us. Hello everyone, welcome to the West Coast Ball Connection. Ron Riggs and Justin Bryan with you here. JB, how you going?
Good, it's good to be back. We did have a momentary lapse in concentration last week, so we weren't able to quite make it into the studio. But yes, round 3 is in the books, and we're finally back in the studio to cover it, Ronnie, so it should be good.
It should be great fun, yes. Of course, a lot happening last week in basketball in Hobart generally, so sometimes time constraints does not help our cause. But anyway, all right, let's go through some of the results in round 3, and let's have a look at the women. So in the Southern Wolves Glenorchy Spartans games, it was the Southern Wolves getting the win by a massive margin here, 96-55. For the Southern Wolves, Taylor Roberts had 53 points. Now that could be a record there, JB.
Shana had 60-some last year. I know that for a fact.
Okay.
It's certainly the season high across men's and women's this year. There's no doubt about it.
All right, there you go. Ellie Collins chipped in with 28 points. For the Glenorchy Spartans, it was Kate Berry with 20 points and Jacine Peters with 14 points. In game of the week for the women's, it was Hobart Phoenix taking on Kingborough-Huon, and Hobart Phoenix get the win here, 75-57. For Hobart Phoenix, Shana Thompson had 31 points, while Kylie McCauley had 20. For the Kingborough Kings, it was Madeline Majura.
Marada.
Oh, Marada.
Madeline Marada.
Madeline Marada. We'll get to that. We'll get to that story in a minute. All right, 17. She had 17 points, while Pear Rhodes had 15. JB, let's give your wrap-up of the round 3 in the women.
Oh, well, I don't think it was much of a shock there, the Spartans and Wolves. I think the margin was, and the pure dominance there of Taylor Roberts. I mean, 81 points by 2 people just shouldn't happen in any league. So, I mean, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. They came fresh off the bye and treated this almost like round 1 again, and hell of a statement to make on a return game. Our game of the week was a pretty tight game to half-time. Kingborough and Hobart, they were tied at 36 apiece, and it looked like it was going to be a hell of a battle, and then opened up on a 15-under run there to Hobart, which pretty much all but sealed the deal and pretty much just kept the margin at bay throughout the last. So, yeah, some interesting matchups there in the women, and, I mean, no shock there that eventually we'll be talking about the Wolves and Hobart matching up later on this week, but we'll get to that in a moment. I mean, the duo there of Thompson and Macaulay, 51 points combined. What do you say? 81 points combined there for Collins and Roberts. Now, granted, they were the 2 tallest people on the court, but, I mean, hell of an advantage to have a tandem that at any night can go for 80. So, I mean, what can you say there? For the Spartans, they're probably not too impressed with the way they've started. Of course, not having Cara Rolls and Sarah O'Neill has been big for them compared to last season, where they actually had those 2 players. And that was a triple team between Rolls, Berry and O'Neill that could get 80, 90 points a night. So that's a bit of a drop-off there for them. But bit of talent coming through, on the injury to Rebecca Hill, obviously a concern for Kingborough. Madeline Morada, again, another story we'll get to, and Marge Rava, you're on the radar as well. Madeline Morada and usually Taya Stevenson combined, but unfortunately weren't quite able to due to Taya's injury early on in the game, which saw her miss Friday night's opening NBL 1 game. Pia Road stepping up to the challenge, though. I mean, they do have a fair bit of talent there floating around the Kings. Just a bit of an off night. I mean, if they'd have been able to hang around the third quarter, they were pretty close to actually outscoring Hobart in the last. So some positive signs there despite the injury there for the Kings, and an interesting round 3 for the women, Ronnie.
Absolutely, JB. And of course, when we commentate games, sometimes we find it hard with the list and maybe some of the pronunciations of the teams. And of course, Madeline Morada. There we go.
We've got it.
We're getting there. Yeah. So yes, but we do apologise for not getting a name right in the first couple of weeks of competition, but we are slow to get in there, JB.
Absolutely. I mean, if you've got an issue with the way we say a name or a word or something, feel free to come and see us. Everyone else seems to not have an issue with it, so come along and see us. And make sure, if you're going to give us player details, you give them correctly. Marge, we're looking at you. We know that Madeline went to New Mexico. Don't try and tell us she went somewhere like Iowa. We know she went to New Mexico. So, yeah, false information and fake news, as they call it, not welcome here on the West Coast Ball Connection.
Absolutely. We do our research, don't we, JB?
We try our best.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's have a look at the men's results now from round 3. And, of course, the game of the week was against Hobart Phoenix and Kingborough-Huon in the men, and Hobart Phoenix run away with this one, JB, 91-52. Cam Brown had 29 points and Geordie Hargrave tipped in with 20, while for the Kingborough Kings it was Elijah Pawson with 25 and Noah Strasmer had 11 points. In the other game on the other court, it was the Glenorchy Spartans taking on the Southern Wolves, and Glenorchy were able to bounce back and get the win 72-49. Jack Stanwicks and Liam Smith were the main 2 contributors here. 24 points for Jack and 15 for Liam, so the dynamic duo getting the job there. While for the Southern Wolves, Isaac Collins had 13 points, and Zach Buick, who's been a really good, decent player in the under-23 competition in the off-season, he had 10. What are your thoughts on the 2 games there, JB?
A little bit of a shock, actually, at the Hobart-Kingston. I would have thought that maybe the run-and-gun style that they've been trying to implement there down in Kingston would have been to the advantage, being able to outrun some of the older and bigger bodies of the Phoenix. Wasn't to happen, and I think the loss of Greg Dolliver for 2 straight weeks really hurt them on the boards, just really lacking height, and honestly that's what killed them in the end. And I tell you what else killed them, that was Cam Brown down on the low block. I mean, it couldn't be stopped at one. I'm pretty sure he would have had 10 points in the first quarter alone. It was very hard to stop him, and then just a lot of skill errors came into it for Kingborough. I mean, missing easy shots, making easy turnovers, just basic execution stuff that it just couldn't go wrong. So they opened the season, with a 30-point loss, and they've pretty much had back-to-back weeks of 30-point losses, although it was only a 13-point loss to Glenorchy. At one point, that was a 30-point margin, and lost by 40 here, almost 40 points here. So, not really the start that the Kings would have wanted. I mean, as we look over on the other side, BJ Radcliffe actually coming back for the Wolves over the past week, and they were ahead of the Spartans to start the game and made it really competitive. But again, once the Spartans, got into a mood and really started hitting their shots and executing, the game was pretty much over again. Stanwicks and Smith making the difference, and I think the depth of the Spartans bench all year is going to be crucial. A lot of their reserves players can play and will play senior minutes, and that's going to be critical for their development as a team. Meanwhile, for the Wolves, BJ coming back into the squad's pretty good. It's probably going to take them a couple of weeks to work around him, and they've got a lot of young talent floating around their squad as well, so not too many worrying signs for them. And of course, Clarence United had the bye. They were 2-0 in the men's to start the season. They were looking to make it 3-0 by the end of round 4, and the women having a break really needed that for United. A big breakdown of what's going on in their system. They are in a rebuild, but I don't know how long a rebuild can last when you're starting to look at average margins of 50 points in defeat. So be interesting to see what round 4 brings us, right?
Absolutely. Let's have a look at round 4 now. JB, so at 6:30 on court number 2, we have Kingborough taking on Clarence in the women, while on court number 1 at 7:55, it is Hobart Phoenix taking on the Southern Wolves. Let's get your take on the round 4 preview.
Kingborough versus Clarence. I think Kingborough are going to bounce back for a win there, no doubt about it. Of course, the bye is going to help Clarence tremendously, but I just think Madeline Morata, Pia Rhodes, Bianca Bell had a pretty good game as well, so they've got a lot of talent that can stretch the floor. Obviously, Emma Waller is a big contributing factor there to Clarence United. She's an NBL 1 player, so I mean, obviously always can't count them out from that perspective, but I just think the way they stretch the floor and the talent, the amount of talent that is on the Kingborough roster will get the job done there. Hobart Phoenix Southern Wolves, I will call it now, game of the week across the men's and the women's, and I reckon that'll be the one game that we do actually film this week, so keep an eye out for that over the next week or so, for that to appear on the Facebook channel and the YouTube channel, West Coast Ball Connection for us, Hobart Senior Basketball League for everything else. But yeah, that's going to be a huge matchup. Kylie and Shana versus Taylor and Ellie is going to be the big story there. You've got Britt Parker contributing along with Alex Finlayson. Tremendous amount of talent across both squads, so look for that to be a 5 to 10 point ball game. Again, I do predict the Kings are going to win in the women in their game, and I do think that the tandem of Ellie Collins and Taylor Roberts will continue on their merry way, and in a tight game, I think they'll beat the Hobart Phoenix. All
right, let's have a look at the men's round 4 action now. Hobart Phoenix taking on Southern Wolves, 6:30 on court number 1. And then on court number 2 at 7:55, it is Kingborough-Huon taking on Clarence United, while Glenorchy Spartans have the bye in both men's and women's, JB.
Absolutely, and I think the bye for the Spartans isn't necessarily a bad thing for either. 2-1, a good start for the men. They'll be looking to want to maintain that 67% win streak, winning percentage all through the year. Meanwhile, I think for the women, they're going to really want to review what they've done. Who can they add? Who can possibly come in? And, just some structural changes they can make. Really reassess where Rebecca Hild's at with a shoulder injury and see where that is and whatnot. In the men's games, Hobart versus Southern Wolves, I think that's going to go to Hobart. BJ Radcliffe, again, a big factor on the boards, and he's going to cause a lot of trouble for Corey Davey, Cam Brown, Nick Barker as well, so that'll be interesting how that goes. It is Nick Barker, isn't it?
Yes, Nick Barker. Yes.
Nick Barker, Cal Barker, occasionally get confused. Definitely Nick Barker. So I think BJ will cause some problems on the boards for those guys, but I just think that the extra talent, depth and experience of Hobart will get them over the Wolves. Now, the Wolves will be very competitive, no doubt about it, because I think a lot of people probably were surprised to see them lead the game against the Spartans, the reigning champs, last week, but I just don't think they'll be able to carry it out. Meanwhile, in our other game, which is Kingborough versus Clarence, I think Clarence will probably get the win, and yeah, Kingborough, unless they're going to find that running game again, really are going to have to reassess when they go into the bye. For round 5, they will have the bye for round 5, final bye round before the first quarter of the season. It's pretty much done, Ronnie. So, yeah, Kingborough are going to really want to execute. Greg Dolliver coming back will be a factor for them against Clarence, because they're going to need rebounds, experience and bigger bodies. And Dolly can certainly fire up not only his team but the opposition. So if he can actually throw the opposition off their game, potentially there's a win there for Kingborough. I mean, I'm reading it as doom and gloom, but I mean at the end of the week they could be 50-50. And that's better than a poke in the eye of a blunt stick, Ronnie, as they say. So for me, it will be Hobart, and they'll win by about 20 plus, and I think Clarence will win by around 15 plus in their game.
All right, JB's predictions there into round 4 for both men's and women's competition in the Hobart Senior Basketball League. Any bold prediction you want to make?
Oh, bold prediction. I'm going to suggest that there's a potential that Taylor, Ellie, Shana and Kylie all have 30. I think it's going to be a tremendously high-scoring game. I don't know whether that's that bold. But if I'm going to go out on a bold prediction, I'm going to say that Kingborough can and will potentially upset Clarence. Now, I've obviously got Clarence up winning by 15-plus points, but bold prediction that Kingborough may cause the upset of the round.
Okay. All right. There's his bold prediction. Okay, so you can follow us on social media. Okay, so Hobart Senior Basketball League, you can find us on Facebook there, where you can find photos and links and whatnot. We've been getting some really good reactions to the photos that are hopping up there. Also, you can follow us on the West Coast Ball Connection here. You can follow us on Instagram at WCBC7467.
And same for the Twitter as well, Ronnie.
All right, same. Yep, beautiful. All right, there's our social media plugs out of the way and done with.
And just quickly before we go, any of the players, any of the teams out there that see our photos, see our footage, we do give permission for you to use it as a means of, showing off your players and stuff like that. We actually did have a couple of inquiries, and apologies for using photos, but we don't mind too much. I mean, don't, if you're going to sit there and try and credit it as your own, obviously that's going to piss us off. There's no doubt about it. So if you can give credit where credit's due, no worries about it, but I don't think we've got a problem with sharing the love, do we, Ronnie?
No, we don't have a problem at all. I think, you just give us credit. I mean, I think people are starting to notice that we're out on the courts, JB, and we're covering all the action. And I think it's good for the league, and we're trying to raise the profile a little bit. So no, it's fantastic to see. But just chuck us a little bit of credit, and I think everything will be fine there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right.
No, that's it.
That's it, yeah.
That's another week done, another week in the books, and we're finally back in studio. So, another week done and dusted. Getting ready to run into round 4.
Yes, round 4. All tips off on Wednesday night. So, on behalf of Justin Bryan, I'm Ron Riggs. This has been another edition of the West Coast Ball Connection, and we will see you next week.